Welcome, everybody, to the House Committee on General and Housing. It is Wednesday still. It is still February 19th. And we are taking testimony this afternoon connected to Recovery Day. And we have four witnesses. Candace, are you here?
I'm here.
I think, Candace, have you testified before? I think you might, have you?
You've met me before, but I have not testified, not in this
case,
case.
I think that I'm going to have the committee introduce itself to you and the other witnesses.
Okay, great. Wonderful to see you again. Ashley Bentley, Fairfax in Georgia.
Hi, Leonora Dodge, Essex Town, City of Essex Junction.
Hello.
Joe Parsons, Newbury, Topsom, and Broad. Don Trouble, Athens, Chester, Grafton.
Debbie Dolgan from St. Johnsbury, Concord, and Kirby.
Gail Pezzo, Chittenden 28, Colchester.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rose and I represent Windsor One, which is Heartland, West Windsor, and Windsor.
Hi, Sylvia Lamont, and I represent Loyal Washington District, which is Morristown, Elmore, Worcester, Woodbury, and a small part of Stowe.
Wow. You're gonna quiz now?
I'm Mark Mahaly, and I represent Calais, Plainfield, and Marshfield. Welcome. Please tell us your name for the record and take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee for your time today. My name is Candace Gale. I am from Barre, Vermont. I serve as the Director of Community Relations for the Vermont Foundation of Recovery, a member organization of the Recovery Partners of Vermont. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today about the critical need for sustained and increased funding for Vermont certified recovery residences. We are asking that you please support Recovery Partners of Vermont FY26 funding requests for certified recovery residences in the budget memo to appropriations. Specifically, RPV is requesting a $360,000 increase in base funding for certified recovery residences through the state bill budget. In addition, we are advocating for the following funds through H218, the FY26 opiate abatement special funds bill, an additional $300,000 to the 1.2 million base appropriation for recovery residences, the $325,000 for scholarships to support first month fees for individuals entering recovery residences. Last year, the General Assembly made a critical investment in recovery housing by allocating both state general funds and opiate abatement special funds to support the scaling of certified recovery residences. Thanks to this funding, Vermont has brought an additional 40 beds online since July of 2024. That's great. Thank you. Through the startup of 4 new residences. However, the demand for recovery housing still far exceeds our current capacity, and Vermont remains behind other New England states in its ability to provide this essential service. Vermont certified recovery residences are structured, supportive homes designed to help individuals sustain their recovery. These homes are based on peer-led support, accountability, and community engagement, providing a crucial step in between intensive treatment and fully independent living. Recovery residents promote long-term stability, reducing homelessness, criminal justice involvement, and emergency healthcare costs. In 2024, Vermont certified recovery residences served 226 individuals, all of whom received peer recovery coaching and were connected to a local recovery center. The average length of stay across the system was 6 months, and 63% of individuals in recovery homes gained meaningful employment during their stay. If you also include volunteering and education, that number is past 90%. While the 1.2 million in base funding for recovery residences in Bill H218 is a step in the right direction, it does not include the $325,000 necessary for scholarships that cover first month fees for individuals who lack financial resources. Many individuals leaving inpatient treatment or the justice system do not have the means to pay for recovery residence upon entry. And these scholarships ensure that the financial hardship is not a barrier to access housing. Additionally, we are requesting a $300,000 increase in funding from the Opiate Abatement Fund to support the startup of 3 additional recovery residences in underserved regions. The demand for recovery beds far exceeds the supply, with waiting lists at nearly every residence. Beyond the profound social and health benefits, recovery residences save Vermont money. According to a recent study by the Fletcher Group, opiate use disorder cost Vermont $2.42 billion in 2017 alone. Recovery housing is one of the most cost-effective solutions for mitigating these costs by reducing relapses, emergency room visits, and incarceration rates. The study found that the economic value of VTAR certified recovery residences over 15 years is estimated at $610 million in avoided healthcare, criminal justice, and productivity losses. You will hear from individuals with lived experience in a recovery residence today, and they can speak directly to the impact that these programs have had on their ability to rebuild their lives. Vermont has an opportunity to continue scaling its network of recovery residences, ensuring that every individual who is ready to commit to recovery has a safe, structured, and supportive place to do so. By investing in these homes and the full continuum of care, we invest in public health, economic stability, and stronger communities. I just want to end by tying this request back to S-186 from last year. Recovery residents play an important role in the overall continuum of care, and the role is long-term recovery. Right now, we simply do not have enough recovery housing beds for everyone leaving treatment. This funding is what will help scale up this resource, strengthening the continuum of care. Maine and New Hampshire have many more beds, and both have exempt recovery residences from landlord-tenant law, and we have not done this in Vermont. As a result, operators are less confident to scale than in neighboring states where they are exempt. Being exempt from landlord-tenant law gives operators the confidence they need to protect the health and safety of all members in a sober living environment. And we will be back at a future date to further this goal for Vermont certified recovery residences. On behalf of Recovery Partners of Vermont, I urge this committee to include Recovery Partners of Vermont's FY26 funding request for certified recovery residences in the budget memo to appropriations. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Members of the committee, questions? Please.
Me?
You.
Do you have a statistic as far as, could we call them also like halfway houses? Or it's more of a rental?
No, so our members is a recovery residences where
Okay.
people that are suffering from substance use disorder go to recover.
Mhm.
And so it's different than a halfway
Aftercare,
house.
not to recover, they're not getting treatment.
Right,
for-
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so they would go to
Yeah,
residential
options.
treatment and
Right.
then they would go to a recovery residence. That's kind of where it would stack up in the continuum. And so, and you're asking for a statistic on,
Relapse
okay.
in these homes. And is there, other than peer support, is there any qualified people that oversee people living in the home?
Yeah, so we have dedicated staff that oversee each of our homes. They're house coordinators, and then they are also managed by a regional manager above them. And then we also have a leadership team as
Do
well.
they need a credential or this?
No, they're not credentialed.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
A lot of the individuals that work as house coordinators who support our homes are also in recovery themselves.
so peer.
Which is important, right? Exactly. It's peer led. And because individuals in recovery can understand other individuals that are in recovery better.
Is there a criteria that if there is relapse,
Mhm.
that there's one shot and that you lose your housing, anything like that?
Yeah. So absolutely, we do allow, so temporary removals is what we call it when someone has to leave because of return to use. We have stabilization beds that we utilize at V4 for individuals to step away from the home and have a safe place to land
Mhm,
while we figure out next steps.
mhm.
And that next step could be their safety net plan that they have in place. Say they no longer want to be at a recovery residence, then they've identified when they started at the home where they would like to go afterwards. So it's either transferring them to that safety net plan that they've identified, or they can go back into the home depending on the situation and if the members agree and the individual is ready to
Okay.
resume their recovery. Or they are referred to a higher level of treatment. That way they might get continued care and then they can come back to the recovery residence.
So if they do relapse and they come back, it's
Sure.
not like they have a bed, they have to go through the whole.
Not if they're temporarily removed. If they go to a higher level of treatment, we
What
know
if
that.
no
and know that they're
treatment
coming
and
back.
then they want to get clean?
Well, it's just decided, it's case by case
Okay.
situation. So if if it's a one-time thing and every member of the home feels comfortable with them returning and they've come up with the guidelines that the operation team has set for them
Mhm.
and they continue on that, then they can return to the home. And it's just the situation that has transpired.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
You had mentioned that the facilities, I think in New Hampshire and Maine are exempt from landlord tenant laws. What does that accomplish in this context? I mean, why is that significant?
Sure. So in order, if we're exempt from landlord tenant laws, we're able to remove individuals without having to go
Okay, the
through.
long process.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to really create an environment in the recovery homes that's safe for everyone, which is why it's really important that individuals in our recovery home are dedicated to their recovery. And that's why the exemption takes place, because it's more of a membership agreement rather than a traditional residence. Yeah.
Sure, I see that
Mhm.
being important. So we don't have that ability in Vermont. I mean, hypothetically, that they have the ability to
So
appeal to whatever.
Sure. So right now we have a 2-year partial exemption to the landlord tenant law. And so we are able to temporarily remove individuals who have a return to use, or if they are exhibiting violent behavior or threatening behavior, we're able to do that right now. We are in the process of trying to get a full exemption from
Okay.
landlord tenant law for recovery
Makes
residences.
sense. Thank you.
Sure.
Question for you, the $325,000, so the $300,000.
Yep.
Is from the opioid abatement funds?
Yes.
The 325 for scholarships, is that also from the opioid abatement fund?
Yes, and that was funded last year, so we're asking to put it back into the opioid abatement fund
It was funded from the fund
last year.
last year, so this is to redo that, or re-up that.
Yep.
So the entire of the 625,000 would come from the opioid abatement fund?
So no, so
The 300,000,
yes, sorry, the 325,000 for the scholarships comes from the opiate abatement fund. So does the $300,000 increase that also comes from opiate
but
abatement.
the
fund.
360.
The 360 comes from the general funds.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I've got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Forgive me because I don't think I think I just didn't write it down, but how many beds in total? How many beds in total across our state?
Jeff from VTAR is with us in the room. I'm just, how many beds do we have total? I know how many before.
Estimating just under 150.
That's right.
Okay. And do you have any data on how many people have gone through the program?
You want to say your name for the record?
Hi, thank you. I'm Jeff Monroe. I'm the executive director for the Vermont Alliance for Recovery Residences. I think you had a number of the number of folks served that you, in your testimony.
Yeah, I did. So yeah, we had, oh gosh.
You said 226
Yep.
for your recovery coaching.
No, 226 were the amount of individuals that were in recovery homes. They also had peer recovery coaching. We work closely with our recovery centers, and they go to our recovery centers to have peer recovery coaching.
So what I'm asking is, over the course of the history of the recovery beds in our state,
Mhm.
how many people have gone through and how many people have gone through successfully?
I can speak to that. There isn't really good solid data. We actually just started collecting some data this year to be able to report. And the Fletcher Group, in their work, they did 2 studies for the state of Vermont. Fletcher Group is HRSA funded. They specialize in recovery residences in rural communities. They just released a report on the economic impact that we should get in front of your committee at some point of recovery residences. And the second phase of their work is going to be looking at the landscape, where those actual needs are, where the gaps are, recommendations, and that will include a set of data metrics that all the homes will begin to track. And many of the homes have adopted a software called Behave Health that will begin to track that data. We've been certifying homes since 2019. And we're now just getting to that phase where we're going to be measuring outcomes.
Thank you. And I have one more question. It's really quick. Are there any age limits on who can participate?
So it's adults, so it's 18 years and older for our recovery residences.
And is there any kind of demarcation or different type of tailored treatment for somebody who's 18 versus somebody who's 72?
So in our program, there is not. We want people who are ready for recovery. And so in our organization, we really provide that safe, stable support for them to live. And then they go outside of our homes to get any like specific programming that would be essential for them. So that's why we really work closely with our recovery centers so that they can get the appropriate programming for the level of care that they need.
I've got one more question, sorry. I served on healthcare 4 years ago and so it was during COVID and we were trying to wrestle with the peer support services question at the time, whether to certify peer support people or not. Because on the one hand, if they were certified, then they could be compensated for their work.
Sure.
But on the other hand, certifying them is really counter to the nature of peer support. So I wondered whether this type of program has that same type of struggle and how it's been dealt with.
So VAMHAR used to provide the certification for peer support, which is what you're talking about. And we found we don't require any of our individuals to have to take a certification program, but we think it's really important and essential and helpful to individuals in their career, as well as serving people in the home. So we recommended that individuals go through the certification process. I know that there's been a little bit of a hole in that since VAMHAR, and I'm not sure exactly what the solution is right now, but I do feel like it is important from my perspective.
I just want to end with one comment, which is that once that issue was resolved in the healthcare realm, the peer support specialists, they were able to, like, now that the healthcare committee is ramping up an expansion of Medicaid's different things and ways that can be covered. Peer support specialists can be paid for their work through Medicaid.
Mhm.
So it's just something to.
Sure. It's on our radar. It's just not something that we have fully fleshed out quite yet.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any final questions? Yes, Gail.
Now that I know you're allowed to ask more than one question.
Are you suffering under the illusion that you're limited?
So do you know how many beds there are, inpatient beds in Vermont for substance abuse?
I do not have that figure.
So, because I've heard that we're so limited that we need so much more.
Yes.
So the fact that you have 150 residential beds
Mhm.
is awesome. Do you know whether or not Vermont is hub and spoke
So-
or Minnesota
Ask the king.
experience or both?
And another 50.
So we're different in the continuum of care from the hub and spoke model. That is for treatment specifically. So I can't speak to inpatient treatment. That is not my world. Recovery residencies are entirely separate. So
Is there a model for that,
for
for recovery in residential? As far as in the United States, is there a certain model that this derived from?
not sure, maybe Jeff Moreau can speak more on that.
I think SAMHSA provides guidance for licensed treatment program.
AMSA is what?
So
Um,
A
lot of S's.
a federal program that provides oversight for medical type programming related to substance use.
Right.
recovery residences are certified under Vermont Alliance. for
It's
Recovery
alcohol and
Residents.
substance abuse.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's not just substance, it's alcohol as well.
we include alcohol as a substance.
Any other question? Members of the committee, we were on our schedule to take testimony until 2:15. It is almost that time. We have three more witnesses. Does the committee mind if we can continue until at least 2:30?
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next witness is Harley LaRoque, LaRoque.
Yep.
Thank you, Harley. Sorry, I missed.
That's all good. That happens all the time. All right, so I'd like to start off by thanking the committee for having me here and for listening. My name is Harley LaRoque, and I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I live in St. Albans. I'm a former member, mentor, house coordinator, and currently a membership coordinator for the Vermont Foundation of Recovery, call ourselves V4. I am here today to ask the committee to support Recovery Partners of Vermont's FY26 funding request. So I'll just tell you a little about myself. In late 2016, overdosed on purpose in an attempt to take my life and ended up in a coma. I had damage to my heart and abnormal brain activity, was on a ventilator. Oh, and suddenly I just woke up in the hospital's ICU with and a friend came to visit and was like, you should try going to a recovery housing. And, you know, the idea in my head was like, that sounds like a great idea because I need out of the place I was at. So in early 2017, I went to live at an Oxford House in Burlington, but I wasn't ready to follow the rules yet and was asked to leave my first week at the recovery home. I called another friend and, you know, I was homeless at that point and suggested that I call V4, Vermont Foundation of Recovery. And they gave me the number. I called. Within a week, I was interviewed at a coffee shop in 2017. And, you know, about a week later, they called me and asked me to move in. While I was in the hospital, Jobs for Independence had reached out to me and helped me with all kinds of different funding. And that was one of the things they helped me with to get into the recovery home and pay like a month worth of my membership dues, which allowed me to go to rehab because my heart was still abnormal. And then about a month later, I got a job and, you know, started paying for my membership dues. And, you know, the structure that I was living in was something that I'd never really experienced before. It's kind of feral. And I was learning all these new things, how to save money and, you know, follow rules. I had adopted a recovery program, a spiritual one, and I was following that. And together those things gave me this like accountability and responsibility that I never really had before. I was learning to live around others who also were trying to find this way in this life without substances. It gave me a sense of belonging and support I needed to keep improving in life. The behaviors, you know, within my and the behaviors within my recovery, I was getting an understanding of paying bills and saving for cars, monthly budget, and all of those things I never thought I deserved. And after 1 year at V4, I was the first member to move into a transitional apartment that they had built in St. Albans. And then, you know, the next stage was becoming like self-sufficient, living on my own, which I'd never done. And then I, you know, I had to put utilities in my name for the first time, which was a fun conversation to have with the gas company. They're like, never had a bill. And no, like, I was 38. But it was like what some people would think are trivial, you know, pursuits in life. You know, that was funny conversation. And so then, like, you know, I started paying those bills, and then, you know, working at V4, they offered me a job to work there about a year into living in the transitional apartment, and then. You know, so I did that for like 2.5 years living there and working for them, and then moved into my own apartment. I haven't shared this stuff in a while.
You're doing great.
But, yeah, I guess I'll just,
Take your time. Everyone in this room has cried at one time or another. You can.
I literally wore
Like I-
waterproof mascara today because I'm testifying downstairs and I know I will cry.
yeah, yeah, it's a vulnerable position. I, so yeah, I've worked at V4 for 6.5 years. And this is gonna happen. Yeah, so, I've worked at V4 for 6.5 years and, tried to help as many people as I can move into the homes that we have and, just bought my first car, adopted by a cat. And, yeah, I just, without recovery housing, I don't, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be crying. Wouldn't be,
Feeling.
yeah. I wouldn't have, any of the stuff that I have today. It's because of people that had been to recovery housing before me, suggested it, and before giving me the life path. Sorry. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Wait, you don't get to go away. Any questions of this guy? Yes, go ahead.
Not a question. I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your story. And also just say, I think a lot of time in life, we want to be successful, but sometimes we're not successful in the best things. And I'm really happy you're here today, not just in this room. So thank you.
James.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to echo that and just say recovery works, right?
Yeah.
And you are here.
Yep.
And we are here receiving your story. But not only that, most importantly, you're doing the work and you're giving back. And I want to echo that because sometimes peer recovery gets dismissed. And so full disclosure, I'm a recovery coach. I went through Van Har's Recovery Coach Academy. I did all of their trainings to be exact. Actually, that's around my facilitation skills. Yes. 10, 11 years ago. And so I just want to say thank you for taking back your life and helping others find their way to.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Didn't think it was gonna go like that. Next is Libba Farrar. Do we have Libba Farrar here?
Libba is not.
Not here. How about Mary Rose?
Yes, we do.
Mary? Hello. Hello, would you tell us your name for the record and tell us what you want to tell us?
My name is Mary Rhodes and I'm going to read from my printed testimony. I'd like to start off by thanking the committee for having me here. My name is Mary Rhodes and I am a person in recovery and currently live in the Vermont Foundation of Recovery Women's Recovery Home in Essex Junction, Vermont. I am truly honored to be standing before you today to share my journey of recovery and to highlight the incredible role that Vermont Foundation of Recovery has played in helping me rebuild my life and ask you to support Recovery Partners of Vermont funding request. Recovery is not a linear path and it is not easy. For many of us, addiction is a deep and painful struggle. But it is important to remember that recovery is possible. For me, it took hitting rock bottom to realize that I needed help, and I was trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, despair, and constant pull of addiction. But I knew deep down that I wanted something better for myself and for my family and for my future. That is when I found Vermont Foundation of Recovery. It was here that I found the support, resources, community that were essential to my journey. The organization doesn't just offer recovery housing, it offers hope. They provide a safe space where people like me can begin to heal and feel free from judgment and filled with encouragement. One of the most important things that I have learned during the time with Vermont Foundation of Recovery is that recovery isn't just about stopping the use of drugs. It is about rebuilding your entire life. It is about learning how to live again. And for me, that meant rediscovering who I was outside of my addiction. This organization has helped me reestablish a sense of purpose, offering both tools and the guidance I needed to face the challenges ahead. During my time in the Essex Recovery Home, I was able to participate in group therapy, one-on-one counseling, and most importantly, to be surrounded by people who truly understand what it feels like to fight every day. There's something powerful about being around others who have walked a similar path, and it's not just the professional support that makes a difference, it's a sense of community. And I learned that I didn't have to face this battle alone. And neither do any of us. The Vermont Foundation of Recovery also emphasizes the importance of giving back. I've had the privilege of connecting with other individuals who are at different stages in their recovery journeys, and I've been able to share my experiences to support others in their struggles. This mutual support is what makes recovery sustainable, and it's continuous cycle of helping and being helped. Through their guidance, I learned that recovery doesn't stop the moment you put down the drugs. It's an ongoing process. It's about personal growth, creating new habits, and building a foundation of strength and resilience. Thanks to the Vermont Foundation of Recovery, I was equipped with these skills. I needed to navigate life's ups and downs without falling back into old destructive patterns. Today, I stand before you not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who has been given a second chance. I am proud to say that I have been sober now for 19 months, and I owe much of that success to the unwavering support I've received from the Vermont Foundation of Recovery and the incredible people I've met along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Mary? Mary, I just want to say, you said something, one of the things you said here really speaks to me. When you said it's really not about just stopping drugs, it's about rebuilding your entire concept of life.
Yes.
My son is an alcoholic and he's 40, in his early 40s. And he said to me after a successful rehab program, I have to say, what I learned about alcoholism and what I went through convinced me that I was just going to lose it, that it's implacable. It's absolutely implacable. That it could not, I was sure that it was too difficult. And I was wrong. He's 9 years.
Wow.
9 years sober. Anyway, what he said to me after successful treatment was, he said, I used to think of my life as like a pie with slices. And I used to think of alcoholism as one of the big slices. And he said, I realized that was wrong. Alcoholism is underneath the entire pie.
Yeah, sure.
Because if I don't beat that, none of the other slices work. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, we do have someone to replace Lila, if you have a couple minutes.
Is the committee willing to hear one more witness? Thank you. Please come forward. Tell us, please. Tell us your name.
My name is Hillary Whitaker.
Hillary, tell us your testimony.
I would like to start off by thanking the committee for having me today. My name is Hillary Whitaker. I currently reside in Barry, BT, in a women's recovery home provided by Vermont Foundation of Recovery. I am here today to discuss my experience in a certified recovery residence and to ask the committee to support Recovery Partners of Vermont's FY26 funding requests. I am a big advocate of the Vermont Foundation of Recovery and everything that has helped me to do in my past, what it's doing presently, and thanks to V4, my family and I's future. Staff do not just work for V4, it is personal. Everyone I have met is passionate about being here and helping people in recovery daily. I have learned and grown a lot from the principles and policies that have to be upheld to be successful to the acceptance and accountability we need to guide us and motivate us to do better. Also, for various members I have met while residing in the V4 residences I have lived in. I've been living in the V4 Barry recovery home for the past 3 months. I started out in Morrisville Women's Recovery Home and then transferred to Barry. I have been in recovery and on medicated assisted treatment, the MAP program, for 12 years for opioid addiction. One of the biggest hurdles I faced when I was on medication assisted treatment was after my daughter's father had committed suicide in front of us in 2016. I was stable on my medicated assisted treatment. What I wasn't anticipating, and something I swore I would never do, was because of my mother dying of alcoholism in 2006, was let alcohol gradually and ever so slowly take control. I truly believe my addictions were under control, but both my brothers also are deceased from addiction. I had never cared to drink prior except socially, let alone habitually or excessively. It wasn't all at once, but it never is. What started as going out for after work Friday nights with my friends and colleagues turned into Saturdays, then midweek nights. In time, it became a lot more convenient to just go to the store and drink at home. It wasn't a problem until it was. Fast forward 8 years, many failed attempts to try to get my drinking under control by changing my drinking habits, stopping for small stints at a time, but always returning to a daily basis. I became a bitter, angry, volatile person to be around. My hardworking, determined spirit was diminishing. My personal relationships suffered. I was burning bridges. My family suffered. My children have suffered, all because of my suffering and not knowing where to begin or to start, or how I was ever going to beat this thing I couldn't get a handle on once and for all. My daughter ended up going to live with my father in 2021 because I couldn't possibly responsibly or maturely raise her or help her with her traumas when mine were running rampant. I successfully completed medication-assisted treatment on the MAP program in 2023, and I got off Suboxone, but I still had to deal with my alcohol abuse disorder. It wasn't until last year, on the verge of homelessness and spiritual hopelessness, a capstone worker and I came across Vermont Foundation of Recovery. I cannot express to you the safety and relief and optimism I finally felt after so long when I walked into the door to meet Andrew and to move into the V4 recovery home. I went to my first AA recovery meeting within 24 hours of moving in. I have been sober for 10 months. My relationships with my family and kids have improved astronomically. I am acutely aware of my actions and words. I am proud of myself. I have hope, integrity, and I am driven to succeed and stay on my path of recovery because my family's future and generations are depending on it. I wouldn't have gotten to where I am without Vermont Foundation of Recovery and the time I have had to work on myself and the principles and policies V4 has while living in their recovery home. We do recover. I respectfully urge the community to support Recovery Partners of Vermont's FY26 funding request to ensure that certified recovery residences can continue providing safe, stable, and supportive housings for individuals in recovery. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I have just one quick question, I guess, of Gail, Candace, and then I know you have a question too. Don't go with it. I see you mentioned 3 separate funding requests.
Yes.
Let's go through. Is the 325 in the governor's budget? The 325 for the scholarship?
It is not.
Okay. The 300?
It is not.
Okay. And the 360?
is not.
Okay, so none of these,
Is in the budget.
none of these,
all in addition.
in addition,
And was there anything in the budget?
Yeah, one.
the 1.2 million
1.2 million
is in budget,
Yeah.
in the budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Gail?
So this is probably a question for Candace or Jeff, and since AA was mentioned, I would just like to know, is the foundation as far, it's not involved at all? Okay, so it's a choice that each, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
all
so
of you for
much.
your testimony. Members of the committee, really appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank
I also just wanted to mention quickly that all of the budget materials as well as additional resources are on your webpage to review as well.
Okay, I have a quick question, actually, that
Yes,
so this goes directly to the heart of a lot of what we've been hearing about how hard it is to develop or to build housing, which is the permitting or, you know, abutters being able to appeal. Do you face challenges? I guess it's a question for the folks who run these centers. How do you deal with community
opposition.
opposition to setting up
The
a recovery
legislature
housing?
a few years ago passed a bill that provided zoning guidance to treat recovery residences as a single family home serving up to 8 unrelated adults, and that's made a tremendous impact. The other thing I would say, just because B4 is in the room, they partner with housing providers to own the property. So Down Street Housing, for instance, here in Washington County owns the home that we just heard about for women with children here in Barry. Beautiful $1 million renovation that's all funded through federal funds, HUD funds, state funds. And they provide that space to B4 to operate. It's a model that the rest of the country needs to look at. In other places, people pay fair market rent and they don't know how to fix the boiler and the roof and that sort of thing. And the housing providers take care of all that here. So it's a really great model that they've developed.
Gail, quickly, yes?
So can people appeal whether that home is placed? You said it could be 8 beds.
Yes, yep.
Can people appeal like,
I'm sure in every town, they have a process that they would have to go through, but the state.
most people don't
guidance-
want it in their backyard?
Exactly. I will say the NIMBY stuff is still an issue, but not as bad as it once was.
Okay,
It's a permitted use now. I mean, excuse me, as of right use in a single family neighborhood. It needs a building permit. That's all it needs. And whether building permits can be appealed, I don't know.
I guess it depends on the town, like in Colchester, you have 15 days.
To appeal.
Once once you put up that orange, people have 15 days to appeal whatever it is you're building.
Tomorrow, for members of the committee, thank you. And thank you again for your testimony. Tomorrow, our hearing begins at 9 o'clock. Please be here so we don't get behind. Thank you very